Billionaire spots Ex-Maid at airport, but what happens next will leave you speechless. The airport buzzed with an electric tension, a blend of voices, and clattering luggage that felt alive. In the midst of it all, there she was, a ghost from the past, her tattered suitcase by her side. Maria, the ex-maid of the billionaire. Our eyes were caught on John Bennett. Once his right hand, now just another face in the sea of travelers. And yet, in this crowded airport, the sight of her sent waves rippling through John's chest like a sudden, unexpected tsunami. It was the kind of moment that slammed down on you like a ton of bricks. With sharp, startled breath, he froze, eyes locked on her hapless figure. The smile that once graced the sleek marble halls of his mansion was replaced by a cloud of weariness. She looked older, tired, marked by struggle in ways that wealth can't comprehend. Goosebumps prickled across his skin. What was she doing here? In this space where the rich and famous flaunt their lives, Maria seemed utterly out of place. People walked by, oblivious, but John felt a tight knot forming in the pit of his stomach. Memories flooded back, the late-night conversations, her gentle laughter, the hints of her life, scrap after scrap of a story he never really got to know. This was no ordinary encounter, this was a puzzle piece from a life he had tried to forget, and that made every heartbeat reverberate painfully. He inched closer, curiosity consuming him. Suddenly, a distant terrified scream shattered the air, jolting everyone. John's heart raced. Was it just panic, or something worse? He looked around, crowd reactions swirling. Eyes widened, mouths dropped. It was chaotic, a clash of confusion and dread. The atmosphere was thick and sticky. Maria hugged her suitcase tight, her gaze darting around as if the very air might betray her. What was going on? Why were all these fears crashing in at once? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And then, as if a spell had been cast, John made eye contact with Maria. Time stopped. Her eyes, those once vibrant depths, held a storm of secrets. Fear danced there, yes, but also something darker, something hidden beneath the years of service and struggle. John's pulse quickened. Was it guilt he felt? Had he done something wrong? Did she know something he didn't? A sudden crack of thunder echoed outside, as if the world knew the tension of that moment. The sky darkened. John blinked, adrenaline coursing through him. The sight of her tore at him, a reminder of choices made long ago. But the question hung in the air, insistent and heavy. What had happened to Maria in the years since he had dismissed her? Instinct tugged at him. He stepped forward, his intentions muddled, unsure of what he would say or do. But the words, those words that had once felt so comfortable, seemed to vanish like mist. In a heartbeat, he was just a man standing before an old acquaintance, cloaked in a sea of urgent mystery, both drawn and yet terrified of what would come next. The scream echoed again, slicing through the confusion like a knife. John's heart pounded as he watched Maria's face tighten, eyes wide with panic. In that instant it was as if the entire world had faded except for the two of them, suspended in an eerie silence that followed the chaos. She glanced at the crowd, a flutter of desperation dancing across her features. Maria. The name slipped from his lips before he could stop himself. He wanted to reach her, to know what was wrong, but feet that once moved swiftly in command felt rooted to the ground. The moment hung densely, charged with an energy that felt almost you could touch. The cacophony around them restarted, pushing John to act. He pressed forward, every person he passed a blur. He'd never been one to shy away from confrontation or opportunity, but this was different. This was personal. She was stepping back, then forward, her fragile grip on the suitcase tightening as if it contained the weight of her world. What had happened to her since their worlds had been split apart? He had heard no news, no whispers of her life after working in his mansion. The guilt surged, hot and heavy, igniting flashes of regret. Before he reached her, the noise exploded once more, a surge of shouting, an overwhelming eruption of panic. A commotion broke out near the entrance. People scattered like leaves in a storm, and John's instincts screamed that something was very wrong. Something's happening. Someone shouted nearby, eyes glued to the main doors. Fear snaked through the crowd as they began to retreat, forming an anxious barrier around whatever was causing the disturbance. John. Maria's voice sliced through, shaky but clear. It was the sound of someone holding on to hope, and it struck him deep. She was looking right at him, urgency written on her face. He could feel her breath hitching over the chaos, could sense her fear wrapping around him like a vice, but as quick as he was to step closer, a dark figure moved through the crowd, drawing his attention. It was swift, a flash of black in a sea of colors. His heart raced as he finally caught sight of it, a man, tense and armed. The crowd unified in panic, screams rising to a fever pitch. Maria's eyes darted to the gun, and for a moment, time slowed again. Her world, his world, colliding with an intensity that left him breathless. Instinctively, John stepped in front of her, shielding her, but questions spun in his mind. Who was this man? What did he want? Was Maria a target, or was he merely an innocent caught in the crossfire? Stay back. The intruder barked, frustration and madness swirling in his voice. The desperation of the moment escalated. John's thoughts raced. Could he talk this man down? Or was it too late to prevent disaster? Maria tugged at his sleeve, her eyes pleading. We need to go now. It was a command draped in urgency, and he felt the weight of her fear pressing down on him, but how? The exits were clogged with a crowd that seemed to surge and recede, a living pulse of panic. Just then, he noticed a small door at the far side of the terminal, half hidden in shadows, a potential escape route. Over there. John shouted, pointing. We can make it. But the gunman suddenly shifted, eyeing their direction, his expression morphing into something terrifying. John's heart dropped. As the man raised his weapon, John reached for Maria's hand. Would they manage to escape, or would this be their last moment together? And in that gripping instant, a new question surged up: would Maria's past finally catch up with her in this moment of chaos? They needed to move fast. With a primal rush of adrenaline, John grabbed Maria's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. There wasn't a second to lose. He propelled her past the chaos, dodging terrified bodies scrambling for safety. The frantic energy in the air was electric, intoxicating with fear and desperation. Come on. This way. John shouted, yanking Maria toward the hidden door. The gunman's gaze darkened, tracking their movements like a predator sensing its prey slipping away. Screams echoed loudly, detonating the serenity they once knew. John could hear his pulse beating in his ears, a thudding reminder that time was slipping away. He felt the muscles in his legs protest as they raced across the terminal, but he pushed them harder, the burning ache amplifying his urgency. Please don't let him find us, Maria breathed, her voice a whisper, barely audible above the roar of panic. Her face blanched, reflected in the shadows of the dimly lit corridor. The suitcases and scattered bags formed a treacherous maze, threatening to trip them at any moment. I won't let anything happen to you, he promised, though the words felt tremulous, brittle against the looming dread. They reached the door, a flimsy, rusted exit that led to an uncertain fate. It creaked open, revealing a narrow alleyway dimly illuminated by flickering lights. As they plunged into the darkness, John glanced back, dread clawing at his insides. The gunman, a silhouette framed by the anxious crowd, turned suddenly and shot the weapon into the air. The sharp crack sent a ripple of terror through everyone. People screamed, eyes widening, heart rates skyrocketing. We have to keep moving. He urged, pulling Maria deeper into the shadows. Heavy footsteps echoed behind them. The distance was closing, and John could feel his heart racing faster than ever. "Where are we going?" Maria panted, glancing back nervously. He could see the fear etched on her face, but she was also lit with determination. "Just keep following me," he replied, desperation flooding his tone. They turned down a side path, leading into the back lot of the terminal. Trash cans overflowed, casting shadows that danced wildly as lights flickered overhead. Suddenly, an ear-splitting crash resonated from the terminal, like the world breaking apart at the seams. Were they safe, or were they just running deeper into danger? A distant shout pulled them from their panic, reverberating through the night air. "There they are." The realization struck like a punch, the gunman wasn't far behind. Every instinct screamed for them to find a car, a way to escape. But what if there was nowhere to hide? Emerging into a small parking area, John tugged Maria toward a beat-up sedan parked haphazardly. It wasn't much, but it was their only shot. He racked his brain for a plan that wasn't forming, glancing back toward the terminal. "Get in!" he barked as his fingers fumbled with the door handle. He could see the shadow now dark and menacing closing the distance. John wrenched the door open, shoving Maria inside before sliding in himself. "Start it. Please!" he cried, the urgency overwhelming. Maria fumbled with the key in the ignition, her hands shaking. "You can do it. Just turn it." The engine sputtered, hesitated, and then sprang to life, filling the cramped space with a low rumble. Just as John locked eyes with Maria, the gunman appeared at the edge of the lot, gun raised, twisted anger etched on his face. "Drive. Now!" he shouted as panic surged through him. The tires squealed, spitting dust as Maria floored the accelerator, sending the car screeching into the night. They tore into the street, but John could feel the weight of uncertainty closing in. What had they just escaped? Who was that man, and why was he after Maria? As the city lights whizzed by, John looked over at Maria, fear simmering in her eyes. There was so much left unsaid, but now they were racing against time to uncover the truth, what secrets lay hidden in Maria's past that had put them in this deadly path. And as long-buried connections began to resurface, the real nightmare may have only just begun. The car bounced wildly over the uneven road, each bump sending jolts of adrenaline through John's veins. His eyes remained locked on the rearview mirror, searching the dark landscape for any sign of their pursuer. Maria's breathing had turned ragged beside him, mixing panic with the lingering pulse of raw fear. "Go faster," he barked, unable to keep the urgency from his voice. He could still feel the heat of the gunman's wrath bearing down on them, a dark shadow that could catch up at any second. "I'm pressing it to the floor." Maria shot back, her knuckles white against the wheel. Her eyes darted from the road to the mirror as well, terror pooling in her gaze. The car sped on, weaving in and out of the sparse traffic, but there was no escape from the darkness that seemed to cling to them. Distorted headlights flashed as cars reacted to their reckless driving. It felt like a scene from a movie, no, a nightmare. "What did you get us into, Maria?" John asked, his voice laced with a mix of frustration and concern. "Who is that guy?" I don't know," she stammered, her voice cracking. "I thought I was done with my past." "Done with your?" Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated behind them. John's heart leaped to his throat, it sounded like a shot fired. "Keep going," he urged, eyes wide with fear, trying to keep his composure. Maria hit the gas even harder, but John couldn't shake the feeling that their luck was running out. "Where do we go?" Maria cried, her breath hitching. "I don't know. Just head to the outskirts of town." They flew down the road, the city lights fading behind them like stars extinguishing one by one. The atmosphere outside felt heavier, an oppressive weight pushing down as darkness enveloped them. Another gunshot rang out, but this time it sounded different, closer. "Look out!" John shouted, pointing toward a trickle of light peeking through the trees lining the road. Maria swerved sharply, swearing under her breath, and the car slid to the side, narrowly missing a pothole. The tires screeched, sending a shiver up John's spine. "What now?" Maria yelled, panic lacing her voice. "Just keep driving," John replied, feeling wild, his thoughts racing too fast to grasp completely. He didn't want to panic her further, but they needed a plan, and they needed it fast. As they skidded around a corner, the alley appeared a hidden refuge that could either be their salvation or their doom. "There." John pointed eagerly towards the narrow opening. "That way." Without waiting for further instructions, Maria swerved into the alley, the car fitting snugly amid the clutter of trash bins and rusted crates. They stopped, the engine idling as silence closed in. "Do you think he saw us?" Maria whispered, her eyes darting about. "I don't know," John said, his mind racing. "But we can't stay here." With a heavy heart, he turned toward her. "Tell me the truth, Maria. Why is he after you?" Her face fell, shadowed by doubt. "I thought I'd left it all behind, but I guess not." John searched her expression, desperate for answers. "What did you do?" She hesitated, swallowing hard like it was a stone lodged in her throat. "I was involved with someone dangerous. A mistake I made years ago." Before John could respond, the sound of footsteps shattered their fragile moment. Heavy and deliberate, they approached from the entrance of the alley. "Get down," John whispered urgently, adrenaline surging through him once more as they ducked, hearts pounding in unison. The footsteps creaked closer, and he could barely breathe. It could be the gunman or something worse. "Maria," he whispered, the weight of their predicament anchoring them both. "Whatever happens next, I need you to trust me." The footsteps paused just outside their car. The shadows loomed larger, a cold dread seeping into John's bones. What would happen if they were discovered? Did he even have a plan? A scream echoed briefly in the distance, sending icy chills down his spine. They couldn't hide for long. Would darkness take them next, or could they somehow slip away again? A tense silence stretched inside the cramped car, hanging heavy like a storm cloud about to burst. John's mind raced. They weren't merely hiding, they were trapped in a corner, and the hunter was closing in. "Do you think he knows we're here?" Maria breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. John could feel her trembling, the raw electricity of fear crackling between them. "I don't know, but we can't stay." He squeezed her hand for strength, his heart pounding loudly against his ribcage. Distant voices flickered outside, the unmistakable sound of a car door slamming, the low murmurs of unknown men. Each sound drew closer, ice creeping through his veins. Maria's voice trembled, and he could hear her fear tightening around her words. "What if this is it for us?" He gripped the steering wheel, eyes darting to the tiny crack in the alley's entrance. "You have to trust me. I have a plan." "What plan?" She shot back, her voice edged with disbelief. "We're outnumbered. Just listen." John took a deep breath, forcing calmness into his voice. "I'll create a diversion. You start the car and get ready to move. As soon as I give you the signal, you drive out of here as fast as you can. No looking back." The sound of boots echoed closer still, and Maria's eyes widened in protest. "You can't be serious. It's too dangerous. Do you have a better idea?" He replied, panic lacing his tone. She looked away, biting her lip. "You trust me, right?" "Of course, I do." But this, her voice faltered as a shadow flickered against the car window. Without another word, John swung the door open, adrenaline lacing his every motion. "Go now," he barked, leaping out into the cold night air, his heart racing in rhythm with the thud of his feet on the ground. Maria's sharp intake of breath echoed behind him, but he had no time to think. The plan was simple, but bold. He needed to create a distraction, something loud enough to divert their attention away from her. As he sprinted toward the alley's mouth, the shadows morphed into figures, 3 men, each with grim expressions and an air of menace. John's heart thundered. They had been waiting, and now they found their quarry. "Hey!" he shouted, adrenaline attacking reason. The men turned, surprise momentarily eclipsing their grim faces. John grabbed a nearby trash bin, throwing it to the ground with a loud clang. "Over here!" He dashed back into the safety of the darkness, praying Maria was on high alert. The men shouted, scrambling toward the noise, their footsteps echoing against the pavement. "Now, Maria! Go!" he yelled, urgency saturating his voice. A screech of tires shattered the night as the car roared to life. The rear lights flared bright as Maria made her move, the engine growling like a beast hungry for freedom. Just as John turned to sprint back toward the car, a heavy arm reached out, seizing him by the collar. He was yanked backward, pain flaring across his shoulders. "Where do you think you're going?" The man's voice was cold and sinister, and John was suddenly face to face with malevolence. "Let go of me!" John grunted, struggling against the iron grip. He could hear the car rev again, could see its lights fading into the darkness, slipping away like a lifeline. "Your little girlfriend isn't going anywhere without you," the man hissed, tugging John closer. In that moment, desperation ignited within him. With all his might, he kicked out, planting his foot squarely on the man's knee. A sickening crunch filled the air. The grip loosened, and John bolted sideways. But his escape felt heavier. The darkness loomed larger, shadows breathing down his neck. Tired eyes searched for Maria, but she was nowhere in sight. Where had she gone? Just as hope began to dwindle, a sound erupted from the darkness, a shout, followed by a crash. "Maria!" Panic rose in John's chest at the sound of her name echoing through the alley. Was this the end? His heart raced, each beat echoing the chaotic scene. He faced the looming shadows and gritted his teeth. No one was going to take her from him. He had to find her before it was too late. With determination boiling in his veins, he plunged back into the shadows, ready to confront whatever terror lay ahead. Could they escape together, or was he running toward an even deeper trap? The answer lurked in the shadows, waiting to reveal itself. John's heart pounded hard enough to crack his ribs as he stumbled through the encroaching darkness, dread curling tightly in his stomach. Maria! Where was she? The only thing louder than the roar of his pulse was the crunch of debris beneath his feet. He pressed forward, urgency igniting every nerve ending. "Maria!" he called again, desperate. But only silence answered. Ahead, the faint glow of another streetlight illuminated the mouth of a cross street. Shadows flickered into view. 3 hooded figures moved in unison, their presence suffocating. Were they looking for him or searching for Maria? Either way, he had to stay one step ahead. He ducked behind a dumpster, the stench of rotten garbage assaulting his senses as he pressed against the cold metal. Straining to listen, he could hear their whispers rising and falling as they scanned their surroundings. "Find her. I want her found before sunrise," one of them growled, the voice so familiar it sent a cold shiver down John's spine. It was Steve, the muscle-brained and ruthless enforcer he hoped never to run into again. "Got it," another replied, dread staining the air. "What if we can't?" "You'll find her. Or you'll answer to me," Steve spat out with an edge that sent the others scrambling. John clenched his fists, fear and rage welling up like a tidal wave. If they got their hands on Maria, no, he couldn't let that happen. He had to act. He scanned his surroundings, searching for something, anything that could help. There. A discarded brick lay within reach. He snatched it up, feeling its weight settle comfortably in his palm. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He peered around the corner, his breath held tight in his chest as he calculated his next move. The men were moving away, likely planning to split up. With a deep breath, he hurled the brick into the opposite alley, hoping for a loud enough distraction. It crashed against a metal canister, reverberating through the night like thunder. "Did you hear that?" one of the men shouted, and all heads jerked toward the sound. "Let us go check it out," Steve ordered, and just like that, they were off, racing into the darkness. John seized the moment and bolted, retracing his steps back to the street where he last spotted Maria. Just a bit further. His breath came in jagged gasps, the adrenaline coursing through him like fire. He could not allow himself to believe she was gone. Peering into the distance, he saw the orange glow of streetlights casting long shadows. He gritted his teeth, praying that she was all right. Suddenly, there was another crash, and John stopped. Heart pounding, he turned toward the noise. Though it came from a nearby building, he couldn't ignore it. "Maria," he yelled again, dread creeping into his thoughts. Rushing toward the sound, he ducked through an opening between two buildings, desperately scanning for any sign of her. The alley was littered with debris, broken bottles, scattered papers, but it was the crumpled silhouette behind a nearby dumpster that made his heart leap. "Maria!" He rushed over, but the moment he neared, a loud grunt erupted from the shadows. A figure lunged at him, tackling him to the ground with fierce intensity. "Stop!" The voice hissed, and John's heart sank flat against his chest. It was a stranger, a massive form blocking his view of Maria. John struggled beneath the weight, rage coursing through his veins. "Let me go!" Consuming fear tightened his throat as he wriggled against the grip, not knowing if his next move would save or doom them both. Time seemed frozen, suspended in the desperate struggle. Every second felt like a lifetime, with the weight of doom pressing down. Just as he found some leverage, a scream pierced through the night, a high, desperate cry that sent chills cascading down his spine. "Maria!" In that split second, he could feel the walls closing in. Who had taken her? Was he too late to save her? His heart raced as the urgency grew sharper. But fate had different plans. A sharp sound reverberated against the night, echoing off the walls. And then silence. John held his breath, wondering if this moment held all the answers he feared to uncover. As shadows danced ominously, he prepared for a final confrontation. Was he stepping into a trap, or could he still save Maria from the jaws of danger that relentlessly pursued her? The answers were buried deep within the darkness, waiting to unleash their truth. John's struggle intensified as he grappled with the stranger, a heavy fist tightening around his wrist. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, a desperate race against time. He twisted and kicked, narrowly avoiding a crushing blow that would surely knock him out cold. "Let go of me!" he yelled, spitting in defiance, but his voice wavered, urgency tugging at the edges of his adrenaline-fueled bravado. He could hear the faint echo of Maria's scream still ringing in the corners of his mind, her voice mingling with the rising panic. Suddenly, the grip loosened, the stranger stumbled back, now facing the alley's entrance. John's instincts kicked in. He seized the moment and scrambled upright, glancing around frantically for Maria. "Where is she?" he demanded, scanning the shadows that seemed to whisper threats. Just then, two additional figures emerged from the darkness, the original trio he had encountered earlier, led by Steve. The burly enforcer glared at John, his expression a twisted mixture of pleasure and malice. "There you are," Steve drawled. "I thought you'd disappeared." Before John could respond, the heavy-set man lunged for him again. John sidestepped, adrenaline overtaking his senses. He dodged into the alley's depths, heart hammering as he raced deeper into the labyrinth of night. "Back here!" he shouted, the hope in his voice mingling with desperation. His mind spun like a kaleidoscope. Where could she be? Did they have her? He took a left into a narrow passage that opened into a small courtyard, littered with old crates and grime. There, he spotted movement, a figure crouched behind a stack of boxes, trembling. "Maria?" he whispered, dread curdling in the pit of his stomach. As he approached cautiously, a chill coursed through him. It was not Maria, but a different woman, eyes wide with fear, clinging onto a spray-painted bottle as if it were a weapon. "Get away!" she screeched, her voice tremulous yet fierce. "Wait, I'm not here to hurt you," John shouted back, trying to remain calm as he took a step closer. But just as he reached out, a shout erupted from behind him, "There he is!" John's breath hitched as he turned to see Steve and his crew flood into the courtyard, shadows closing in like vultures. The woman screamed again and darted away, leaving John exposed, alone. "Caught you, didn't I?" Steve savored, his lips curling into a menacing grin. He stepped closer, menacing eyes locked onto John. "Time to pay the price for getting in our way." "Let her go!" John yelled, summoning every ounce of courage. Steve sneered, his gang flanking him, cutting off any hope of escape. "You don't get to make the rules here. You're just a heartbroken fool with no idea of the game you're playing." John stood frozen, fear rising. What did they want? Why was Maria involved in this hell? But a sudden crash behind him caught everyone off guard. The wall of crates had collapsed, sending dust and debris flying into the air. "Run!" A voice pierced through the chaos. John whirled around to see Maria, somehow free, sprinting toward him, panic fueling her every move. As their eyes met, a rush of relief surged through him. She knew he was there. But the moment was fleeting. Steve roared, "Stop her!" Without thinking, John's instincts took over. He lunged forward, grabbing Maria's hand mid-stride. "Let us go!" But before they could escape, the world around them erupted into darkness, the chaos of fists and shadows crashing against each other as they fought through a wall of bodies. "Get back!" John shouted, pushing Maria behind him. The fight for survival reached a boiling point. Would they make it out together or become another lost story whispered in the shadows? The answer loomed just beyond the chaos, but it was buried under layers of desperation. Could they really escape the grasp of the enforcers lurking in the depths, or was this the moment everything shattered? Maria's hand felt small and fragile in John's grip as they tore through the mass of bodies. He could hear shouts, the punch of fists hitting flesh, but their blurred figures mattered less than the urgent need to escape. Adrenaline thrummed through John, the thrumming beat in his ears drowned out everything else. "Look out!" Maria screamed, yanking John backward just as a meaty fist sliced through the space where he had been moments before. The punch landed with a thud against a man's face, sending him crashing to the concrete. "Run!" John shouted, yanking Maria onward, the two of them dodging around fallen crates and twisted bodies. Each step felt like a gamble with fate. Would they reach freedom or be captured in this hell? They veered into another alley, the shadows swallowing them whole. John's heart raced, but he refused to let despair creep in. They had to keep moving. "Where do we go?" Maria gasped, her breath quick and panicked. "Just trust me," he urged, glancing over his shoulder to see if anyone followed. Fear crept into every corner of his mind as he saw silhouettes fanning out behind them. He tightened his grip on Maria's hand. Suddenly, a sharp pain tagged John in the side as he ran. He stumbled, pain exploding in his ribs. "Go! I'll hold them off," he barked, panic lacing his voice. "No! I can't leave you. Just get to safety." He shoved her in the direction of the exit, urgency spilling into his words. "Please. I'll find you." With that, he turned back, facing their pursuers who were closing in like wolves. Steve was among them, his face twisted with delight. "Cute little game you two are playing," he sneered, waving a knife. "But it's time to end it now." John planted his feet firmly and clenched his fists, trying to steady himself against the rush of adrenaline coursing through him. He didn't have a plan, but he couldn't let fear rule him. "Come on!" he shouted, charging forward into the group. As fists collided, he fought like a man possessed. Each blow landed against someone angry, desperate grunts echoed around him. But for every foe he sent crashing to the ground, two more appeared to take their place. It was like trying to hold back the tide with a shovel. He caught a glimpse of Maria, peeking from around the corner, and it reignited a spark of strength within him. But before he could process what he was doing, another punch came at him. The impact knocked him back, and he staggered, dazed. "Damn it!" he hissed, fighting off the dizziness as he regained equilibrium. He needed to reach Maria, to get them both out of here. But as he turned to protect her, Steve lunged forward, the knife glinting in the fading light. Time slowed, John's heart pounding in his chest like thunder. "No!" John screamed, throwing himself at Steve. They collided hard, grappling for control. John could feel the cold steel of the blade grazing his skin, and he twisted away just in time. Steve's anger fueled his movements, but John's determination pushed through the chaos. They rolled, and in that instant, John swiftly maneuvered, knocking the knife from Steve's grasp before he could stab him, but the brutal scuffle had gone unnoticed by the world outside. Shouts echoed, sirens wailed in the distance, and the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The ground rumbled beneath them as heavy boots echoed in the alley. Maria's face, now carved with terror, locked into John's gaze, adrenaline mixing with dread. He swiped at the cuts peppering his arms, knowing time was slipping. "We can't stay here. We need to get out." Then, a sudden realization hit him like a jolt of electricity. Where would they go? The world beyond was full of unknowns, shadows lurked everywhere. But he couldn't burden her with doubt. She needed to see strength in him. "Come on, together. Just stick with me," he urged, and for a moment, they locked eyes, their very lives hinging on each decision made. Together, they bolted down the alley just as more figures emerged from the darkness, closing in like a noose tightening. Escape was within reach, but danger coiled like a serpent. As John sprinted, a new wave of fear washed over him. Were they truly free? Or did their ordeal only just begin? The alley seemed endless, hope teetering on the edge of despair. And just like that, a light flickered ahead, a tantalizing glimpse of safety. Would they reach it, or was fate pulling strings he didn't fully grasp? A blinding beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the alley ahead. John's heart raced, pounding in synchronization with the chaos behind them. "This way!" he cried, drawing Maria closer to the brightness. Hope sparkled in the air but hung heavily in his chest. As they dashed toward the light, footsteps thundered behind them. The pack of pursuers was relentless. Sirens wailed, growing louder with each passing moment. Maria glanced back, fear etched on her face. "They're coming. Keep moving!" John shouted, pushing through the fear that threatened to drown him. They skidded to a halt at the side of the street, barely stepping into the light. Cars streaked by, the hum of engines drowning out the urgency of their footsteps. "Which way?" Maria breathed, scanning for any sign of safety. "Anywhere but here." John's voice cracked as he jerked his head toward the street. Seconds felt like hours, the world around them a blur of chaos and looming danger. He spotted a small cafe across the street, a buzz of activity but a risky refuge. "Let us go." John grabbed Maria's hand, and they dashed across the pavement, dodging a taxi that swerved to avoid them. Just before they reached the cafe, John glanced back one last time. The figures had spilled from the alley, their faces twisted, hungry for retribution. Inside, chaos was replaced by chatter and clinking glasses. They rushed through the door, breathless, yet the sudden calm felt surreal. John scanned the room, a space filled with unsuspecting patrons, none aware of the tempest lurking just outside. "Sit down," he whispered to Maria, pushing her gently into a booth against the wall. He forced himself to appear calm but felt the tension clawing at him from the inside. "John?" Her voice trembled. "What do we do now?" "I don't know," he admitted, his eyes darting to the windows. "We wait?" We need to blend in for now. Maria nodded, watching him with wide eyes, anxiety written plainly on her face. The clamor of coffee machines and laughter shrouded their little bubble, but John felt every heartbeat drum with the weight of their situation. Suddenly, the door swung open and John's breath hitched. A group of men spilled into the cafe, their laughter echoing off the tiled walls. Among them was Steve, his eyes scanning the room. Pure malice twisted his features as his gaze landed directly on them. "Damn it," John hissed, leaning close to Maria. "They found us. What do we do?" She whispered, panic rising. "Stay low. Don't look at them." He gripped Maria's hand tightly, feeling her pulse racing. Steve was striding toward his group, oblivious to the storm brewing just a few booths away. John's thoughts raced. Escape was essential, but how? He felt cornered, the looming faces in the cafe suddenly all strangers, all judging. He spotted a small kitchen door at the back of the cafe, potential salvation. "Follow my lead," he instructed, subtle determination hardening his jaw. He glanced at Maria, her fear tangible, yet beneath it sparkled a sliver of trust. Maria nodded, ready but terrified. They rose cautiously, John peering toward Steve, who was busy conspiring with his friends away from them. Now or never, John and Maria moved slowly toward the kitchen, his heart thumping like a war drum. Just as he reached for the door, something sharp sliced through the warmth of adrenaline in his veins. A hand clamped down on his shoulder. "Caught you," Steve sneered, the smile on his face chilling. Panic surged. John turned, adrenaline pooling in his veins like fire. "Leave her out of this," he shouted, using every ounce of strength to break free. Too late for that. Steve's eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. With the cafe suddenly falling into a tense silence, all eyes locked onto them. The stakes had just been raised. The air thickened with dread, each heartbeat resonating like a countdown to chaos. And just as John prepared to fight, a new sound broke through, a distant but unmistakable roar. The ground trembled as if in response. A moment of shock and uncertainty hung like a storm cloud just before it bursts. What was happening? What had come next? Would they pay a heavy price for their choice? The roar of engines grew deafening, and John's instincts screamed danger. The tremors persisted as heavy vibrations rumbled beneath their feet. Steve's cruel smile faltered, panic creasing his brow as he turned to face the commotion outside. "What the hell is that?" Someone near the bar shouted, eyes darting toward the windows. The unease in the cafe transformed into fear, collective breaths held as they awaited an omen. "Don't look," John urged, pulling Maria closer. "We need to get out. Now." He scanned the cafe, an aquarium of panic. Tables and faces blurred together under the chaos. With no time for hesitation, he grabbed Maria's wrist and pulled her toward the kitchen door. "Open it," he urged, feeling sweat bead at the back of his neck as uncertainty brewed. Maria pushed at the door, and it creaked open, revealing a narrow corridor where the sounds of the cafe faded into the hum of overhead lights. They slipped inside just as chaos erupted behind them. A resounding crash echoed, the sound of shattered glass cascading across the floor. "We can't stop." John pushed forward, adrenaline bolting through him as they moved deeper into the bowels of the cafe. The air felt heavier here, thick with tension, but the confinement was logical, it was escape. He led Maria through the flickering fluorescent lights until they reached an emergency exit. "Let us go." He flung the door open, metal scraping as they burst out into the alley behind the cafe. The street was quiet now, save for a faint rumble. Anxiety gnawed at John's gut. What were they running toward? "Where do we go?" Maria gasped, her panic evident. He looked around, desperately seeking refuge, anything that felt like safety. "Over there. The parking lot." He pointed toward a cluster of cars glinting under a streetlight. One vehicle stood out, an aging sedan, but it would have to do. Together, they sprinted toward the lot, the crunched gravel underfoot oddly comforting as they raced. The growl of engines outside became louder, and every muscle in John's body urged to move faster. The urgency of escape felt like a beast at their heels. They arrived at the car, and John's heart raced as he yanked the door open. "Get in!" he barked, urgency lacing every word. Maria scrambled into the passenger seat, fingers fumbling over the locks and seatbelt. John slipped into the driver's seat and shoved the key into the ignition, breathless. The engine coughed, but roared to life just as the cafe door swung open with a bang. He could see silhouettes spilling out, led by Steve, who spotted them almost instantly. "Drive!" John shouted, the fear in his voice raw as he slammed the car into gear. The tires screeched as he sped out of the lot, the night swallowing them whole. They hit the street, driving like a bat out of hell, but John could feel Steve's eyes burning into his back. "We need a plan," Maria breathed, her once flower-like face now taut with worry. "I know," John squeezed the wheel tighter. "But first, we need to get far away from them. Just hold on." As the city lights blurred into streaks of color, John's mind raced with possibilities. Where was Maria's past leading them, and would they ever be safe? He felt the weight of her reliance on him, the fear that hung palpably between them like a life vest in a stormy sea. "John," Maria whispered, her voice cracking, heartache lacing her words as he stole a glance at her. "If they catch us, no. We won't let that happen," he interrupted, his determination raging hotter than fear. "We're going to figure this out, I promise." As they navigated through the quiet streets, the danger felt like a thundercloud still lurking. But with each block they passed, he felt that surge of possibility rise slowly, a flicker of hope. They could find answers, maybe even safety. Maria's presence at his side ignited a new fire in him, anchoring his determination. "What do you want to do?" he asked, but at that moment, he knew it didn't just matter what he wanted. Their fates had twisted together, and they would face whatever came, side by side. "I'm not sure," she said at last, a deep breath calming her voice. "We need to uncover why they're after me. I have to confront my past. It's the only way to end this, to find peace." A warmth settled inside John, admiration mixing with an urgency that urged them onward. "Then we start there," he declared, more confident in their shared mission than ever before. If they navigated this storm together, there was nothing they couldn't face, and in the distance, just beyond the shadows they were leaving behind, dawn pushed its way over the horizon, a muted promise of a new beginning. With renewed focus, they aimed their sights ahead, hearts united against whatever lay ahead, determined to break free from the chains of the past and forge a path into the unknown, where hope glimmered just beyond the edge of daylight. The world was waiting for them, and for the first time, John felt that maybe, just maybe, they could carve out their own future together. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will unravel even more twists and turns. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think will happen to John and Maria next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support helps us create more heart-pounding tales.